Hello folks, and welcome to the Days of Yore, this renewed look at the history of Beaubears Island and the village of Nelson and the surrounding area. We'll be visiting you, you'll be visiting us, this every other week. So we look forward to seeing you as we go. So this week we'll be talking about Leonard O'Brien, politician, lumber baron, and final owner of Beaubears Island. So my sources today come from the Dictionary of Miramichi Biography, the provincial legislature, the House of Commons, and a number of contemporary newspaper articles. So of course I'm not an expert, I'm not a biographer of Leonard O'Brien, so the information I'm presenting you here today is really for narrative purposes. So let's get underway. The O'Brien family started from very humble beginnings. So Leonard O'Brien was the son of John O'Brien, who himself was the son of a laborer from County Waterford, and Mary Allward from County Kilkenny. So John O'Brien began his professional career as a clerk for the George Burchell lumbering operations. In 1867, he broke away and began his own lumbering operations. In 1870, he set up a general store, which is still very much a part of the Nelson waterfront. In 1887, he completed the construction of what is today known as the O'Brien Bridge, a bridge that spans the southwest Miramichi River between Derby and Nelson, which unfortunately was lost in 1912. In 1890, he began a political career. Now, this was somewhat controversial because, elected as a member of the opposition, he would cross the floor and join the government of Premier Andrew Blair. And that same year, John O'Brien started a family. He married Bridget Lavinia McPeak of Fredericton, and they would have 2 children. In 1891, John McPeak O'Brien, their oldest son, more commonly known as Mac O'Brien, and in 1895, Joseph Leonard O'Brien. So the operations for O'Brien were very good. He became known as one of the leading figures in the Miramichi lumbering community. In 1902, he set up his own sawmill. In 1917, he set up O'Brien Limited, with himself, his wife, and his 2 sons as chief operating officers. Unfortunately, in October of 1917, tragedy struck. Traveling in their car, Leonard O'Brien and his father were struck by a passing train as they passed the Almshouse crossing in Chatham on their way home. Now, Leonard O'Brien was quite luckily not hurt in a major way, but his father suffered a fractured nose and dislocated hip, and at the age of 70, he was unable to recuperate from the injuries that he sustained. Within a week, October 20th, 1917, as a result of pneumonia and his injuries, John O'Brien passed away. Now, obviously, this was a very pivotal moment in the life of Leonard O'Brien. Now, some versions of the story have Leonard O'Brien driving the car on that day. Now, of course, this has led some people to debate how responsible he may have been for this tragic occurrence. Now, the newspapers at the time were very clear that it was raining very hard and that neither O'Brien could have seen the train until it was too late. But of course, like I say, debate on that continues to this day. However, at the same time, Leonard O'Brien became the successor of his father in running the business. Now, to be sure, his mother and his older brother were still members of O'Brien Limited, but for one reason or another, Leonard O'Brien became the chief force in the business. Now, some have said that Mac O'Brien, while having a great deal of superior social skills, wasn't maybe as inclined to business. That his skill, even though he was a lumber scaler, was more agricultural. In fact, he was well known for his expertise in the training and breeding of horses. So perhaps that's where his talents really lie. At any rate, Leonard O'Brien set to work. His early business career proved very successful, even though in 1924, in April of 1924, the O'Brien sawmill burned within 5 months. Leonard had seen to its reconstruction. It was back in operation. Leonard O'Brien regularly purchased other companies and attached them to his own. Most notably in 1939, he purchased both the Sullivan Mill here in Nelson and also the Walsh Mill site in Chatham. In 1943, he bought up a number of timber leases around the area, and that same year of 1943, Leonard O'Brien was the principal employer here on the Miramichi. Leonard O'Brien had also, by that time, begun a political career. In 1925, he was successful in the provincial election, one of the more hotly contested provincial elections in the province's history. He sat as Speaker of the Legislature from 1925 until 1931, and in 1940, he was elected to represent Northumberland County federally in the House of Commons. He would remain there until 1945. Leonard O'Brien was part of a contingent of members who traveled from Canada to the United Kingdom on board a Lancaster bomber and liaised with members of the British Parliament. While he was there, he collected pieces of rubble from the bombed House of Commons, which had been struck in May of 1941, and brought those pieces back. They would become part of the O'Brien collection, held by the province of New Brunswick following his death. As to his later political career, he would leave federal politics after his defeat in the 1945 federal election, but still become a leading figure in the New Brunswick Conservative Party, sitting as its president from 1956 to 1958. The latter years of Leonard O'Brien's business career saw a new plant open in 1949. This new plant produced what was then known as plaswood, a mixture of plastic and other scrap wood put together. It became the first of its type of pressboard ever in Canada. In 1952, Leonard O'Brien's business holdings included 2 sawmills, 2 planing mills, a box shook mill, the plaswood plant, and a woodworking factory, a cement block plant, the general store, and 200 square miles of crown timber leases. Though he suffered some losses in 1959 as a result of fire, he was able to maintain the majority of his business empire until his retirement in 1961 at the age of 66. In 1958, Leonard O'Brien became New Brunswick's Lieutenant Governor in a ceremony that was said to have added even more dignity to the provincial legislature. Leonard O'Brien was often known as someone who brought back a lot of pomp and ceremony to the office of Lieutenant Governor, usually seen in a morning coat or a Windsor jacket. It, again, took very seriously the ceremonial role that was his. He received an honorary doctorate of laws from St. Thomas College, also received an honorary doctorate of civil law from the University of New Brunswick. Probably the crowning achievement of his time as Lieutenant Governor was hosting Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip during the 1959 royal visit to Fredericton. Leonard O'Brien also attended the coronation, had already attended the coronation of Queen Elizabeth, would later attend the wedding of Princess Margaret to Lord Snowdon, and apparently also had a private audience with the Queen at that time, alongside his wife, Kathleen. In 1963, Leonard O'Brien was due to step down as Lieutenant Governor, but no replacement being found, he remained on for another 2 years, stepping down in 1965. Most notably for our purposes here, Leonard O'Brien was also the final owner of Beaubears Island, owning the island from 1920 to 1973, the longest of any private owner in the island's history. Leonard O'Brien bought Beaubears Island in 1920 for $1 and was somebody who very zealously guarded it throughout his life. He engaged university professors and historians in dialogues on its history in order to better appreciate the rich heritage that was very much a part of the island. And protecting it, he of course gained somewhat of a reputation of being an old curmudgeon, watching the island with his binoculars out of his front parlor window, and of course dismissing any number of trespassers over the years. But of course, Leonard O'Brien played a key part in the commemoration of the island's history, most notably in hosting the reception in 1932 when the island received its first National Historic Site designation for its role in the Grand Dérangement as part of Comte d'Espérance, the largest Acadian refuge at the time of the deportation. Away from Beaubears Island, away from politics and away from business, Leonard O'Brien, of course, was a son, and he was a husband. He was, in many ways, he's a regular individual. Leonard O'Brien married Kathleen O'Leary of Rishabukto in 1947, in a ceremony that was officiated by the Archbishop of Toronto. Kathleen was a graduate of Mount St. Vincent University and a nurse in New York for a number of years. Leonard O'Brien, in his spare time, when he wasn't watching Beaubears Island, was painting. His amateur artwork drew inspiration from the lumber woods, but also from his many travels around the world. Leonard O'Brien, of course, very famously signed all of his paintings backwards, Nearbo or O'Brien. And most of his paintings were, of course, photographs that he had taken, transformed into slides, and projected onto the canvas. In 1966, a private showing of more than 60 of his art pieces was put on at Mount Allison University in Sackville. Leonard O'Brien's final years were perhaps not a kind time for him. In 1971, and his wife Kathleen passed away after an illness. Most folks agree that the death of Kathleen, his wife for some 24 years at that time, hit Leonard O'Brien very hard and never perhaps fully recovered. At the time of her death, her long charity work for a number of organizations, including the Red Cross, was touted. Father Francis MacDonald, who officiated at her funeral, claimed that they were, at that time, celebrating the culmination of a Christian life. Mourners included Premier Richard Hatfield, Chief Justice Bridges of the New Brunswick Supreme Court, the Irving family, and condolences were sent from Pierre Trudeau, John Diefenbaker, Sir Max Aiken, and Hugh John Fleming, among many others. Leonard O'Brien lost his leg due to an illness at around this same time. And in 1973, in June of that year, Leonard O'Brien himself passed away. Many of the same mourners once again came to St. Patrick's Church in Nelson to attend his funeral. Leonard O'Brien donated $1 million to New Brunswick students, and the J. Leonard O'Brien and Kathleen O'Brien Fellowship still exists today to help graduate students here in this province. Beaubears Island was willed to the federal government and received a second National Historic Site designation. The J. Leonard O'Brien Memorial that still stands on Beaubears Island today pays tribute to Leonard O'Brien and his family for their contributions to the community and to Beaubears Island. J. Leonard O'Brien's legacy today is a mixed one. Most people readily accept his success in politics and business. But many who knew him in the years that he lived here in Nelson remember him as something of an aloof figure. Whether that came from a sense of entitlement or perhaps a certain social awkwardness is a matter of some debate. But regardless, we here at the Friends of Beaubears Island owe Leonard O'Brien a great deal for his tireless stewardship and great appreciation for Beaubears Island. So I think we'll leave it there. Days of Yore is a production of BITV, bringing you the best of Beaubears Island and the surrounding Miramichi area. If you would like to support us in our endeavors, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. For exclusive content and a number of other perks, check out our Patreon page as well. Any support that you can offer us is greatly appreciated. I'll be back in 2 weeks' time. I hope to see you then. For the Days of Yore, I've been Dr. Sean McCarthy. Thanks so much.